Tonight's Modern Men is powered by the Hero Initiative. Are you interested in becoming a hero? Go to heroinitiative.org to see how you can be a hero to those creators in need. Hey, what's going on, guys? We're live this week. That's right. It's Modern Men, episode 51. We are deep into the Modern Men Crisis Trilogy to Andy and Drew's chagrin, but luckily we have some wonderful folks here with us to get us through this crisis, and that is the chat. So I'm going to knock out the chat real quick, then we introduce our panelist. We got Ricky Markstadt. He says, hello, Markstadt69 is here. If you ain't first, you're last. And I'm not even sure what Chris Barrett's trying to say there, but we got Chris Barrett in the chat. And
he's
then
finally cracked.
Robot doing something. I don't know. I don't trust that guy. But anyway, we got a wonderful panel tonight. We got Andy, and he always has that majestic flowing beard. Andy, how's the beard? Did you have to run back in time and get that comb?
I tell you what, Carson, this beard's growing with a flash.
There you go. Drew, how you doing down there? It looks like you got a little peach fuzz there.
Look, my beard used to be Andy's dad's beard, but apparently, like it that died instead, and now I'm the new beard man. I mean, Batman. I don't know. Look, man, I'm busy right now watching a new video on the DruManchu channel. This right now, I mean, if you look at my posted videos, the last video I posted that wasn't a live video on my channel was in July of 2019. And then today, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, I posted a video on my channel, and it's for C. Woodard 19's October Reads contest. Check it out.
Wow. I am honored by the influence.
Look, I mean, I just want to win those free books.
Yeah, so I got a whole short box. In case you guys missed it, I do have a contest going on my channel, which this next guy in the chat has already entered a bunch of times as well. We got K Titus in the chat. What is going on, K Titus? He says, hello from Japan. There he is. And then last but not least, unfortunately, Comic Core Chad had an emergency. He could not make it this week. So to the rescue, like the Golden Age Superman, we got the Great Legend Show. YouTube.com/R1995 made his rebranding debut last night. Legend, how you doing, man? And he's muted.
And he's on mute. How did that happen?
I have no idea. Let me see if I can unmute this. It says can't unmute because they chose to mute themselves.
He chose to mute himself.
We're live, pal.
But tonight, man, I'm glad to be here live. And I tell you, if I have the silver, if I grew the hair out and had the silver in there, it'd be like Golden Age Superman, Reed Richards, Parallax, Hal Jordan, it'd be all the goods. But man, thoughts and prayers go out to our buddy Chad, and I'm dedicating my live show, performance tonight for good old Jenny Ramsden, because she's what it's all about. And if you want to be a hero, send Chad some Iron Man books, right?
That's the one where he loses his legs, right?
Yeah, I thought he was going to lose his legs in issue 1, so I bought 5 sets of each damn #1 issue.
Now Tony didn't lose his legs, but the Legend lost his shirt on that deal. I don't know how that works out.
Chad said he had a digital copy where Tony loses his legs. I trusted him. He screwed me like Vince McMahon screwed Steve
That's a Marvel
Austin.
Dark Ages preview, man.
Screwing Brett. Dude, Jerry Conway, Jerry Ordway. You can't get anything straight when Chad says stuff.
He's not good with names.
Yeah. But I'm glad to be here tonight to talk Flashpoint. I'm very excited, man. Very excited.
All right. So, Legend, all I know is I'm glad you're here, man. You're definitely welcome on the show and the panel anytime.
Thanks,
man.
Tonight,
we're going to be talking about Flashpoint, the ramifications of Flashpoint. I haven't brought – God, I need a forklift, but here we go. I haven't brought my new 52 Omnibus. So we can kind of go over – what in the world happened at the beginning of the new 52, and are these books worth going and getting, or are they just going to get lost in history like a Flashpoint? We'll discuss that. And then some of our favorite alternate realities and stuff. I put alternate realities and comics in the title.
I love those.
But we might go into TV shows and movies just because I know, Legend, you're going to have a lot to talk about there with, the...
Open Open Fjord. We'll talk about the Fjord in a minute.
And then next week, we got Infinite Crisis on the horizon to complete the Crisis Trilogy. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So Flashpoint. Last week, we had the huge read, Crisis on Infinite Earths. So as usual, I want to kick it to Andy to get his first impressions on Flashpoint because I was just curious. 25 issues later, what was your reaction like to a DC basically crisis?
I was confused at first, honestly. I didn't realize what we were getting into. I had to read it for a second time. It reads much better on the second read when I'm looking for a couple of nuances, a couple of things at the beginning. But again, I find myself watching a bunch of DC heroes put a team together, and it wasn't until that second read that I really understood what was going on. Like, just I couldn't fathom how Aquaman and Wonder Woman were the villains of this read. And like, what the hell's going on here? The whole first time reading through, I had no idea this was an alternate reality. No idea, none. It wasn't until near the end when they started explaining it, I was like, oh, okay, I definitely have to go back and read this again.
What about you, Drew? I think you said this is your first time reading this as well as
No, I've read this before.
Okay.
Flashpoint and the New 52 kind of coincides with my reintroduction into reading and collecting comics. I'm definitely more of a Marvel guy, and I think that is very apparent from my opinions and my favorite reads. But I'm familiar with the DC universe. I love the Justice League cartoon growing up, Batman the animated series, and I kind of jumped right back onto Batman. And I was a little bit late for the Batman #1 from New 52. Probably about a year or so into the New 52, I started recollecting, and I kind of went back and experienced some of these stories. And I've always kind of had a soft spot for Flashpoint. I just thought it was innovative and different and kind of a cool way of resetting the universe. But since then they've done it so many times over and over and over again, it's kind of cool to go back and see the first time they were like, okay, well, Flash runs back in time and changes things. I mean, it's now become a trope that this book was so successful. I have fond memories of my first time reading it.
Nice. Do want to say a special shout to Animali Comics hanging out in the chat tonight. What is going on, Animali Comics? But yeah, for me, this was a mixed bag. I thought it was going to be. I remember when I originally read this in 2011. Of course, I was heavy into the DC comics going on then. I loved all the Geoff Johns stuff coming out. I loved all the. Well, I didn't really like Final Crisis, and I gotta be honest. I want to revisit that again at some point myself to see if I have a different reaction on it today. But pretty much besides Final Crisis, I loved everything DC up until this point. So to see some of my favorite characters have to get like completely reinvented and all that stuff and have to go through, I think it was a 3-month event basically back in 2011. And they basically took out one of my favorite books, Superboy. It had a great run with Jeff Lemire going on, and they just cut everything. They basically pulled an X-Men Age of Apocalypse, which I'm sure we'll talk about later tonight, where they just stopped every title and everything was Flashpoint for 3 months. Everything, crossovers and all that good stuff. And then we got the 5 issues of Flashpoint to kind of navigate us on what was going on. And reading it this time, I actually enjoyed it a lot better reading it 5 issues and that was it. Like, I had never read it 5 issues in a row or in trade format. I read it when it came out. So I would read one and then like 2 or 3 weeks would pass or a month or however long it would take for these things to come out. And then that's how I experienced the first time. For whatever reason, I always just had this like kind of bad taste in my mouth when it came to Flashpoint. I can't, it's probably you, Drew, said last week, like, you can get everything you kind of need to know from Crisis out of the books that came after that or what have you. You don't really need to read Crisis. I kind of always felt the same way about Flashpoint. Like, you don't really need to know that much about Flashpoint to figure out everything from there. They really,
I would say conversely, 12 issues versus 5 issues. Like this was definitely a quick, fun, light, easy read compared to last week's homework assignment, which was a very, very dense 12 oversized issues. So,
yeah, and I mean, this is so much of an easier. Actually, I ended up reading it like last Tuesday. It's like I was just like, I'll start reading the first issue, but like at the heart of this, like Geoff Johns just wanted to make a very good Flash story, which that's what I appreciate it for being. Is just a great Flash story with Barry Allen, because Andy, I don't know if you realize this or not, Barry Allen was pretty much dead from the point we read Crisis last week in 85, 86 to about less than a year before this came out in 2011. So they brought him back with Flash Rebirth in 2010. So basically, like, this was the first really big Barry Allen story besides Flash Rebirth and I think 8 or 10 issues of his own title. That's all the Barry Allen we got in the 2000s, basically. So I want to say hi to Captain Comics. What is going on, Captain? Nice to see you.
Ahoy.
And then Legend, I know this is one of your favorite tales, so I want to turn it over to you for a little bit. Tell us what Flashpoint means to you.
Well, I love Barry Allen. That's always going to be my Flash. One of the freaking best. The Scarlet Speedster, the Carmine Infantino. You had, damn, what did they used to, I don't even remember what they used to call it, but that motion blur that he used to draw behind him in 1958 when Showcase 4 came out. And, man, he just made it a staple with that character. But I love that. I read the Flash Rebirth finally, maybe about a month or so ago, and it was pretty damn awesome and a great little series. And then I went kind of right into Flashpoint. This is my second time reading Flashpoint. I don't know, man. Sometimes these stories, man, you read them a second time, you read them a third time, they just like get better with age, and I couldn't even imagine trying to read that issue by issue when it came out. I mean, I'd totally be lost. So it's like Andy said, you read the first issue, you're like, and if you don't know like any kind of like thing that's going on, you're like, what the hell's going on here? This ain't in Kansas no more. You know what I'm saying? But if you were able to read it all in a row, you would kind of get the gist of what the story was trying to show. A row and show classic. But one thing that's really good, and I don't think a lot of people have read these, are those other books that came out, like Citizen Cold, Secret 7, all the little tie-ins. I mean, because with me, I knew a little more because I'd watched the DC animated movie of Flashpoint. So you would see flashbacks of Aquaman and Wonder Woman making love. Mira finds out. Mira confronts Wonder Woman. Mira and Wonder Woman fight. Wonder Woman removes her freaking head, takes her crown, and all that stuff. So you get a lot of those little backstories in the movie, which was cool. One thing that I saw that was that really pissed me off and just got a hatred for that character was those cheap ass two-timing, backstabbing Secret 7 member Enchantress. Kind of messing up my boy Billy Batson in issue 4. And man, so that was gone too soon. And Carson, one thing I loved about Flashpoint, they had their cover A's, they had their, I think they're 1 in 25 black and white sketch variants, but they had their like cover C's where it usually spotlighted, Thomas Wayne Batman. One issue spotlighted Cyborg. Show me that issue number 4, the death of Billy Batson.
On me for this one.
Put this thing on big
you
screen.
Requested that I bring this issue to my short boxes and show it off tonight.
Beautiful. Now this cover has some things going for it. You got the scars on his face that Wonder Woman gave him in a previous battle. You got all the kids there, plus Tawny. This is the first cover appearance of Darla Dudley, Eugene Choi, and Pedro, whatever his last name is. But you got the first cover appearance of those 3 kids. And also, for all you speculators, Flashpoint issue number 1, when Cyborg's trying to get the team together, and you see the Shazam kids, or that would become Captain Thunder. That is Darla Dudley, Eugene, and Pedro's first appearance in Flashpoint 1. Now, is it the new 52 version of Darla, the sweet little girl with the glasses and stuff? No, but it's the first appearance of that character on any DC universe. And of course, Flashpoint number 1, as far as the spec goes, it got the best thing about it, I think, that people like to spec on with that one. First, Thomas Wayne is Batman, which Thomas Wayne is Batman, dual pistols. Oh, damn.
Dual pistols, man.
Cool, man.
Oh, man. You know what those dual pistols are, Legend?
Dude. Dual pistols. Oh, freaking hashtag classic. But yeah, the whole story, though, with Flashpoint, it really did set up New 52 fairly well. At the last pages of issue 5, you got some like little preview pictures of like different, you got to see, I would say, your boy Dan Jurgens' Superman with the red trunks. And then on the right side of the screen, you got to see the blue trunks with the red belt, more so the Jim Lee Justice League style Superman from New 52. So you got a little bit in there, but I'm really going to go back and try my best to read more of the tie-ins. I read the Reverse Flash tie-in. It was okay. It was some stylized art, and it was kind of a letdown because I kind of already knew what Professor Zoom 2 did to Barry and how, he screwed Barry around and kind of, made Barry feel sorry for himself at the mother's grave on her birthday. And then after that, like if you watch the cartoon movie, they don't leave you hanging. They kind of start where he's at the grave site, and then, something comes to him and says, you know what, I'm going to go change time. I'm going to bring my mother back to life. And then, then he wakes up at his desk. And he's already forgetting in that point where he wakes up from the desk, he's already forgetting the fact that he ran back in time in the first place. So that memory of the altered Flashpoint reality is already setting in on Barry, which is pretty interesting because he doesn't really figure it out until, he shows Thomas Wayne his ring and then the Professor Zoom costume comes out. But just a great story, Carson. I love it.
Yeah, and I was actually going to bring up Flashpoint Batman because he's pretty much our ultimate wingman here. It's at the heart of this is a Flash story, but if you could call it anything else, it would be also kind of a Batman story because we get Thomas Wayne, and he's probably like the second most important guy here. So, Andy, when you kind of flipped to that last page on issue 1, what was your reaction to Barry figuring out that this was Thomas Wayne? Did you know about this beforehand?
No, I didn't. And it escapes me what the last page of issue 1 was. It just kind of blazed right through it on Comixology.
It's pretty much just a revelation, like Thomas Wayne. Yeah, it's like you're Thomas Wayne.
Leading up to that, with Barry going to the Wayne Manor is all broken down and all. That was really intriguing. And he pulls the clock aside. He knows right where he's going, and he goes down in there, and that whole portion of the story begins. And with Thomas Wayne as Batman, that's when the story actually started really sucking me in. I was like, okay, because Flash isn't something I have any history with, and my history of Batman is short as it is, but I have more of a history because of you guys. Like, okay, now I'm getting really interested. And I just totally went around the bush from your question. I felt that end of that issue is what really started dragging me more into it and said, you're Thomas Wayne. You got the red eyes. You got the dark looking Batman. In the dilapidated Batcave, the dilapidated Wayne Manor, that was actually like, okay, now I'm getting sold. Now I'm getting drawn more into the story. And at this point, I still hadn't really understood that this was an alternate reality. I still hadn't put 2 and 2 together and realized that he had Barry Allen had gone back and changed time, and then here we are. I enjoyed that actually quite a bit.
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about the Flashpoint Batman spinoff, which that's pretty much the only one I picked up when all of this was coming.
I read that today, Carson.
Did you read it? You actually did.
I did, and guess what? I enjoyed it, even though Eduardo Rizzo should never draw comic books.
I told Drew he's going to hate it because it was... So basically, Andy, if you didn't get a chance to check it out, the Flashpoint Batman, it's called Batman Night of Vengeance. It's a 3-issue miniseries, and it's from
quick, easy read.
Exact creators of 100 Bullets, which I know Drew did not like. So it's Brian Azarella, Eduardo Rizzo on the art, and Dave Johnson even does the covers like it's a 100 Bullets title. So Drew, tell us why it was good minus the art.
I was familiar with the story. I've seen it recapped on YouTube videos, and I didn't read it when it came out, but I'm familiar with the Thomas Wayne story about and all the Martha Wayne stuff and her becoming the Joker. It's a really interesting take on the Batman mythos. It's just different, and this was before every time you opened a DC comic there was a new dark version of Batman, so it was interesting to see the world of Gotham kind of turned on its ear. It was different and out there in a way that like now is so commonplace. Every time you open a book, there are 30 different dark Batman from 30 different dark multiverses, and every Batman villain is a different version of Batman. But back then it was just it wasn't like that. So it was dipping your toe into something kind of new, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I almost kind of feel like in some of those shots, and both books, Flashpoint and the Batman Night of Vengeance, like Gotham almost turned into alternate reality Hill Valley with all the Biff casinos. They had like those Bruce Wayne, or not the Bruce Wayne, but the Thomas Wayne casinos, and then Penguin helping run the casinos and all that stuff. So definitely got the Back to the Future 2 vibes in that one. But yeah, they do some grisly stuff in that as well. Like the one scene that really stuck out to me in Night of Vengeance is where he does get to confront his wife, or I guess ex-wife, the Joker.
I don't know if they were ever divorced.
Jokester. Yeah, I think she
kind of went crazy.
Off. But it's actually Jim Gordon has like the insane moment where he goes in guns ablazing trying to fight Martha Wayne, and she disguises a little kid as herself. It's kind of like that scene in Dark Knight where the cops are getting ready to shoot at that one, but it's like the SWAT team and the doctors dressed up as, or no, it's the people dressed up as the Jokers and so on and so forth. It's kind of like that scene at the end of the Dark Knight of the second Nolan movie. But yeah, he ends up actually shooting the little kid because she's dressed as the Joker. And that's when like Jim Gordon's trying to heal her, and then Martha's comes up right behind him, slits his throat in a smile formation, and is just mocking him the whole time. It was just that's pretty much like the scene that sticks out in that one. Besides all the Thomas Wayne stuff with him killing people and guns and stuff, it's if you like 100 Bullets and you like that, it's definitely classic at this point.
Classic, bro. Classic.
Legend, did you get a chance to read that one?
No, I really want to read it now. The only one I got to read was the Reverse Flash one. But like I said, I got them all queued up on that DC Universe app. Man, I've been freaking slaying the digital. But you know what, Carson? I've talked about this with you, and I've been, pondering it for a long ass time. And I finally ordered me some of them nice, very fine to near mint raw copies of Flashpoint. So I finally got me some Flashpoint 1, and the lot also came with that issue number 4.
Awesome. I'm happy you're getting that. That's awesome.
And then I used my eBay bucks, so I didn't really, I guess when I bought some Golden Age, that buy them big boy books and you get a lot of eBay bucks for it, So that was good.
True story.
So there's a lot that goes on here, but it's all pretty quick. But the next scene that really stuck out for me in the main Flashpoint here, well, besides like Steve Trevor, like just kind of being there and Wonder Woman having to kill him because they don't know each other in this timeline, obviously. He's just working for the Resistance, which that all takes place in like the Lois Lane book, which I read real quick today. And you get some Jimmy Olsen in it. He gets killed off pretty quick. It turns out he's working for Cyborg, and Lois Lane kind of takes up that mantle once you get stuck doing a fluff piece in London, and everything just goes to hell from there. But the next thing that really sticks out in the miniseries is where Flashy's trying to get his powers back. And Thomas Wayne's nuts for even having to help assist with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, they put chemicals around, they put an electric chair. And Andy, how does this one play out? What did you think of this scene?
Well, I didn't realize the origin of the Flash had to do with him being struck by lightning. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
He's
correct.
fast as lightning because he was struck by lightning.
It makes sense when you think about it, but I probably should have looked into the origin of the Flash before really dipping into this and reading this. But it had a really cool, creepy vibe to it, like electric chair vibe, kind of strap me in, let's go.
Very Frankenstein.
Thomas Wayne is like, yeah, exactly. And Thomas Wayne's like, this isn't going to work. And Barry Allen's like, you got to trust me, man. You got to trust me. And to the point where he has third degree burns over his entire body. And I'm like, it didn't work. Ha, ha, ha. And then I fell for it in the story where it worked the second time around. God, I want to go back to that art and read that portion again. I really did enjoy that.
I kind of want to know who these idiots are, right? Who set up this slapdash science experiment, right? He gets third degree burns all over his body, and he's like, no, let's try again. That's the dumbest idea ever. I mean, I'm glad it worked out for the story, But at the same time, man, that's just it's just like, come on, man, get your science together.
And this whole time before leading up to that, he's like, we've got to do this before I forget anymore, before he loses any more of the memories on how he needs to do this or what he needs to change. So it added an element of perceived pressure for him to achieve this, to do it, to get his powers back. And here I am with no history of the Flash in my gourd or my melon. And I'm like, this isn't going to work. So as a reader, I totally fell for it. And then when it did, I'm like, hot damn, it did. Let's go.
Carson, I have a question for you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before Flashpoint, was the Wildstorm universe a part of DC? Was this also a backdoor kind of way of amalgamating the Wildstorm universe into the DC comics as well?
It's funny you mention it because that was going to be my next question. So yeah, this was their way of like taking everything. They just felt like it's kind of like the original Crisis, like, oh, let's bring in Blue Beetle and all those guys, and all the Captain Marvel lore, and let's just figure out a way to merge that in on the long way. So that's what they've done here. Is they use this to bring in all of your favorite Jim Lee characters, Drew, from Wildstorm, like Grifter and Grifter.
It's really Grifter. It's really just Grifter.
If the more New 52 you read, the
Zealot's
more
in there as well, right?
I was going to bring it up here in a little bit, but you do get a Stormwatch title in the New 52 launch titles, which that's where poor Martian Manhunter ended up somehow in that book. Yeah. And that kind of held him down for several years.
So
and
Jeff
then
Johns doesn't like Martian Manhunter.
At least Caitlin Fairchild of Gen 13 pops up later with the teen characters, and that's not as much fun as you would think. So
no, I didn't like her character redesign. They made her very burly and not as breasty.
Yeah, she was almost more like the later versions of Knockout from Superboy, where she had those more square shoulders. She had less feminine features, if you will.
I mean, she always had square shoulders compared to the other characters in Gen 13.
She was at least taller, but she's definitely they took away some more of those J. Scott Campbell curves, so to speak. We got Animalic Comics loves Grifter, and also we got the Chaos Machine hanging out in the chat. What's going on, Chaos Machine? Says he's a big fan of Grifter.
Grifter's a great character design. He's Gambit with guns. It's pretty great.
Yeah, so this was their way of folding in the Wildstorm characters as well as, anything else they wanted to do. Like, we'll talk about that a little later, the Green Lantern stuff especially.
Yeah, Element Woman. Hello. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome to see her
character.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, she was one that, like, I was going to ask you here in a little bit, Legend. We may as well get this out of the way now. The differences between this read and the animated movie.
Yeah, she wasn't in there. She wasn't in the animated movie, and she's a great tag-along. She's a great fun character. She kind of reminds me of Harley Quinn, with some of her little antics where she just wants to be involved and get her, just get her feet wet and whatever action's going on, want to be the part of the team and everything. I really liked that Elemental woman. I've only read her in New 52, but I know she's kind of like the female Metamorpho,
Yeah, so there were another set of differences. The other difference that stuck out to me was there was no Enchantress either. So when Enchantress had a heel turn coming up, that doesn't happen. So I have to figure out a new way for Shazam to get separated in the battle. We'll talk about here in a second. And it's just Wonder Woman and the Lasso of Truth, basically, instead of.
So what's that? We know. She says, "We know this isn't your real form. Tell me how you do your real form." And of course,
the word.
Sam, damn, Lasso is such a cheap ass.
I will say that I enjoyed Element Woman and in the book, but I did not miss her in the animated feature, and I also didn't miss Enchantress in the animated feature. I think they did a really good job adapting it. I think they definitely did a better job, as you said earlier, setting the damn thing up. It's less confusing. It's got more context as you go into it. And man, if you don't feel like reading a book, but you feel like checking out this story, check out the movie, because it is a fairly literal adaptation that just it trims the fat a little bit and makes it a little bit more palatable. Maybe they didn't put Enchantress in it because she doesn't move the needle as far as
I think Andrea Romano just didn't want to get more voice actors.
Maybe she didn't have enough female voice actresses in her speed dial or something.
Yeah.
But on the other
Susan
side,
Eisenberg had to pull triple duty if they put those characters in there.
They integrated Lex Luthor into
the cartoon
Deathstroke boat, the Ravager, because the way the one issue starts, it's just Aquaman killing off Deathstroke, and he's more or less, he has a crew there, but he doesn't have Lex Luthor. Whereas the movie, he has Lex helping him out, and they both get killed off together. So he's not even in the book part. So it's just kind of weird how they would integrate a character. Sometimes it wasn't in the book, and then they would take out a character from the book for the movie purposes. So,
like Ocean Master was, with Aquaman, but Black Manta wasn't with Aquaman. See, in the movie, Black Manta, Ocean Master, and Aquaman are just kind of whipping that ass.
They even had the Aqua Lads there with them too.
Yeah.
So he brought like pretty much every ancillary Aquaman character, with the exception of Mira, of course, because she's headless. She was there basically. So. And actually, it's funny. The Chaos Machine in the chat asked, "How would you compare this to Marvel's Age of Apocalypse?" Or no, you're looking at the right angle, dude. Like when I started this, I heavily compared it to Age of Apocalypse, except it's label wide. Whereas they just stopped the X-Men books in the '90s. They stopped everything at DC when this thing came out, just for all of the spin-offs.
I think the only thing that kept going in the '90s during Age of Apocalypse was Spider-Man for the most part. Avengers stopped for a little while. I know Fantastic Four. They were doing the what were they doing? The Heroes Reborn stuff.
Yeah, the Heroes.
Yeah, the Heroes Reborn stuff. Yeah, that's when it got really nuts.
Right. But I would say that if you're looking at Age of Apocalypse in comparison to Flashpoint, I think that the event overall, kind of comparable to how it was produced, but this is meant to be a conflict that resolves itself within this story, right? Whereas Age of Apocalypse is kind of just like, here's a snapshot of a world, and here's one battle that they're fighting. Each book has their own battles that they're fighting along the way, but all for the same goal, pretty much. And at the end of it, it just ends. With the end of Flashpoint itself informs a lot of what happens in the new universe, whereas Marvel kind of just went like, all right, we're stopping everything, we're doing this thing, and then they kind of just came back pretty much status quo as things were before.
Pretty much after that, you got Dark Beast, and that was the main fall. You got X-Man, I guess.
You got X-Man, and I guess he's the Pandora or whatever of
True, I got what you're saying.
Man, that really is shitting on X-Men, but I'm actually a fan of the Nate Gregg character. I think that this had definitely more long-reaching implications on the universe than Age of Apocalypse did on the Marvel universe.
Sure. All right, before we talk about the final battle, there's one other character I wanted to highlight, and he kind of had his differences in the book and the movie as well, and that's Superman. So they still had that same part where, they got to go, once Flash gets his powers back, and they kind of convince Cyborg what they're doing. The three of them go to Flash is like, we got to find Superman. He is the most important hero. Every time there's a crisis, Superman is the most important character. So it seems like this is the first almost basically crisis where Superman wasn't the focal point. So they had to bring him in, and he was just this scrawny dude they kept in a cage. I know Chad wanted me to mention that heartbreaking panel where they're going through the labs and you see a skeleton of Crypto.
It was number 2 or something.
Yeah.
Going too soon.
Yeah, got way too soon. I love me some Crypto. But Andy, what did you think of Superman here?
That was a very, very interesting take. They talked about 3 subjects that landed over time, and subject number 1 being Superman, number 2 being Crypto. I don't recall them divulging or going into subject number 3, but the idea and the take of Superman never seeing the sun and being kept 2 stories or whatever it is below the surface in a cage and never seeing another human being was oddly very interesting. You just look at Superman and look how prolific Superman's been over the decades, and he draws his power from the sun. For him to never be able to draw power from the sun and never see another human being, and they did a really good job with the art and with the take and the aspects of what he would look like if that's what were to happen. And he looked like he'd been living in a cage this entire time, and he looked pretty psychotic.
He looked like that dude on that People Under the Stairs movie.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Like
Yeah.
gaunt looking face and everything.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say this is probably my favorite DC read because of that
Wow.
the different takes, and I've got a lot more DC I need to read, but this has been pretty fun to see the Thomas Wayne, to see the different takes in Superman, and the other characters. It's made a lot of the DC characters that much more interesting to me, especially with Superman. Look at how the storied history he's had, and then to have this take, that was pretty neat.
I really don't think that you're alone, Andy, because this was very instrumental in kind of revitalizing DC as a whole. The New 52 that came after this was probably their biggest sales boom that they've had as a company in the existence of their company. They created a lot of new readers. They brought in a lot of readers that weren't DC readers, and did they lose some of those guys along the way? Did the New 52 kind of lose its direction after a little while? I believe that's true. But at the same time, I think that the way that they kind of went, okay, well, what are people familiar with? How can we twist it just a little bit to make it new and exciting? How can we bring in new readers and still stay true to our characters was pretty well done. It's pretty spot on.
Yeah, Chaos Machine asked a question in the chat that we did not discuss the Elseworlds Flashpoint, but yeah, Andy, this is actually Flashpoint Volume 2 technically, because they used the Flashpoint title for an Elseworlds thing, and I think it was either the late 90s or very early 2000s, and I actually have not read that. That was kind of outside my collecting window.
I haven't read it either.
I didn't even know that it existed.
Yeah. I actually have it in the bin back. I found it for $2 once. So I
pull it out and read it now. Let us know how it is. We'll talk amongst ourselves.
I think we'll go ahead and get to the final battle of this instead, so we can kind of talk about the New 52 a little bit more. So, and this is where it gets really different in the movie, because the book, that you see the characters battle and that stuff, and you see that heartbreaking moment or the Enchantress heel turns on them.
Damn.
She undoes Captain Thunder, aka, we kind of know him as Shazam, but in this he's Captain Thunder, into the 6 kids, and that's where I think it's Wonder Woman deals the death blow to Billy Batson, and that's where they lose their heavy hitter instantly. And then the other main thing is Superman actually does show back up, but this is where the movie gets really different, because like I said, Wonder Woman uses Lasso of Truth to defeat Captain Thunder basically, and just kills off Billy Batson. After that, we have no Enchantress there. We have no Element Woman to come to the rescue. Superman is more empathetic in the movie. They actually get a chance to talk to him before he just flies off into the sun. So he gets introduced to words like friend and that stuff. So
Boris Karloff, Bride of Frankenstein, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So he's like,
classic.
They actually kill. You get to see a lot of these characters get killed off in the movie.
Classic.
Like Aquaman loses an arm. Then he detonates like Captain Adam's in there, which I don't even think he's in Flashpoint the book at all, unless he's in a spinoff. But that's actually what creates the world-ending event. Instead of Aquaman setting off these bombs under London, he actually detonates Captain Adam underwater and just destroys everything instead. So you get to see pretty much Cyborg gets killed off in the movie. Aquaman, basically, you get to see the wave of Captain Adam kill everybody else off. Batman actually shoots Reverse Flash through the head instead of stabbing him with the sword. That was a little different take, because in the movie it's pretty grisly, because you get to see the headshot, and then you see Batman through the headshot as Reverse Flash falls down. So it's quite the different take. So Legend, what did you think about all this?
Great scene there.
I don't know, like I kind of love the book, but I also love the movie a lot. I just watched the movie again last week with my oldest, and it was the first time he had seen it. He fucking loved it. Normally he doesn't, jive too much. He didn't really get into the Grant Gustin Flash stuff because he thought it was just getting too boring, too slow, but he really enjoys the animated stuff. But yeah, the movie is freaking awesome, because it does have those different takes. It's kind of like, a while back y'all were talking about the Boys comic, was it Garth Ennis or whatever? The book is a lot different from the show, but the show in its own right, it's pretty freaking awesome. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like, the cool thing about having a show and a book, and, you know, you always get, you know, the Harry Potter people, oh, the books are better than the movies and all this. But for us comic fans, it seems like we just get the best of both worlds, man.
Yeah,
whether you read the comic or watch it on the film or whatever, you get just awesome action, man.
Yeah, I agree.
I love both of them.
You watch interviews with like Robert Kirkman about the Walking Dead TV show, and he sees that TV show that he's involved with as a second chance to tell these stories and to kind of improve upon them and to see where he made mistakes in the long-term storytelling and where he could have made it easier on himself in the long run and what might work better. It gives you much like Barry Allen running back into time to change things. It gives you a second chance.
Yeah, I did. Since Andy didn't watch the movie, I did want to ask you the question about this. I think, you know, the movie was great. The action scenes I thought were a lot better fleshed out and everything compared to the book, where some of the things were rushed because they only had 5 issues. But one of the things they did beautifully in the book, I think, is just to get that emotional impact of Barry getting a chance to talk to his mother one last time. That's one scene you didn't get in the movie that you got in here. So, Andy, what did you think about when Flash does try to run back and he actually ends up running into his mother instead? So, what did you think about that scene?
It added a lot of depth to Flash, to the book itself. You're referring to the part where he was on the cosmic treadmill in the book, right?
Yeah, pretty much. He has to stop himself on the cosmic treadmill, but
yeah,
he gets a chance to explain to his mother what he has to do before he does it.
And that added a lot more emotion to the book than I didn't really realize that there was going to be this much emotion in that book. Mm-hmm. Then you get to that part, and it's like, oh, they're gonna say goodbye. They're gonna move forward, and he's got to let go of her, and it's got to be right here, right now. And he was rewarded after the fact, but yes. I was kind of hung up on the cosmic treadmill. The idea of the cosmic treadmill being something that he needed in the first place, it seemed kind of hilarious to need a cosmic treadmill to go back in time to begin with. And I like the way that, you know what I really liked about this scene and a lot of the other scenes, they do an amazing job conveying the motion, conveying the action for somebody who moves that fast, yet the panels don't move for you. It's just a 2D image. And that's showcased really well here as well.
Yeah, and actually we haven't even talked about Andy Kubert, but yeah, as usual, 10 out of 10 for the art here. One of my favorite artists ever, Andy Kubert. Here you go, classic.
Andy Kubert's freaking classic, of course. He's got the good genes, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Joe Kubert, his dad. Of course, Adam's brother too. Like
Adam's good.
I always like
how many top 10 comic book artists went to the Kubert school? Come on.
Absolutely. Yeah,
after they got done with that school, boy, they were jumping up that pyramid, avoiding those purple snakes left and right, jumping on rainbow disc all day and all night. Kubert, man.
But yeah, Flash runs back in time. He gets to have one last, piece with his mother. His mother's like, just do it. Like, if me living leads to this much destruction, just go back in time and change things. So he does. But yeah, you get the whole scene with Pandora randomly, and you get to see like, oh, Grifter's here, and Grifter. Yeah, look at Grifter. The Wildstorm universe is coming in. So that's the scene where they integrate. You see like the past versions of the heroes on one side of the big splash page, and then you see like them in their new costumes on the next page. And all of a sudden, because of this, Cyborg's a main eventer now instead of a mid-carder. There's my one wrestling reference for the night. And then you get the final scene basically with Barry waking up, sees Iris and all that fun stuff. It's kind of like when Homer Simpson went back in time in that Treehouse of Horror and kept changing time, and it was all wrong. And then he got done, and everyone had long tongues, but everything else was normal. He's like, close enough. That's pretty much what happens here with Barry. He's like, close enough. Or maybe he just forgot everything else, except for he gets to remember his mother, luckily. But you get that last final scene, which this makes Flashpoint for me, where you get to see Barry talk to Bruce, and he gets to deliver the letter that was given to him by Thomas Wayne. And maybe the main reason to watch this movie is they extract this exact scene from the comic, and and put it in the movie. And this is pretty much, they brought in Kevin Conroy as Batman, as only Bruce Wayne Batman, just to read this scene. And it was absolutely amazing. So what did you guys think of the close of this book? You get to see Batman cry.
A bit of an aside, but in the COVID era, I just want a grifter mask that I can wear to the grocery store. That thing's freaking cool, man. But beyond that, I thought it was perfect because they didn't really go into what was in the note. It was kind of just like, here's the note. Let them have that personal moment. I think they've gone back and ruined that since, in my opinion. But I really like the ending. And I think that it gives you this sense that what's coming next is going to be exciting and new and fun, but also classic. We won't throw that.
Legend, what do you think? What did you think of the last scene here?
Well, for the build-up, you had a lot of build-up from Thomas Wayne throughout this movie because he is having, he doesn't trust a lot of people. And over the whole, over the whole series, he starts giving more trust and putting more trust into Barry because Barry tells him in his universe, Bruce is still alive and well, and that really, it's emotional. And, Andy, you probably, think the same way because anyone that has children, if you look at these things in a different light, because, you have kids. Actually, Drew, you got a kid too. I totally forgot.
I don't got a kid.
Your kid was classic. She's still rocking and rolling all that Minecraft. But no, you start getting
she ain't no kid no more, man.
And like Andy said, you get a lot of good emotions in this book. And during the battles, and I can't remember if this was from the book or the comic. I think it was from both. He said, I think Thomas Wayne was just ready to go ahead and sacrifice himself because he knew if Barry could get this thing and win it, that Bruce would be okay. Man, whew, that got me, man. And then, of course, the whole letter thing. What the hell? Trying to make me get teary-eyed at the end of the damn book.
It makes the characters relatable.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, man.
Absolutely. It really gets you to buy in. It really gets your buy-in on that when you make them relatable like that, or the situation very relatable.
And they put it on the last scene, too. They ended with that. It's like, damn, this was just, when I finished this was a masterpiece.
Like Anna Molly said, I got to watch the movie. And my plan was to watch the movie today, and I got called into work, so I'll have to watch it tonight or tomorrow.
You're going to love it, Andy.
Yeah, like I said, especially for the action. The animation style took me a minute to get into, but I actually listened to a little bit of the commentary there explaining, how this Japanese anime studio created the movie, and it was actually kind of interesting.
At the beginning of the movie, you get to see a little run-in with old Reverse Flash, and then how Reverse, I don't want to ruin it too much for Andy, but Reverse Flash kind of gets the rogues together to do some dirty work at the beginning of that movie. So you do get some Conroy in the beginning of the movie too. Not too much, but you get a little bit of everything, man. Movie and book, just a freaking great story.
You actually get a little bit of the taste of the Hal Jordan miniseries too, with Highball Hal flying that alien spaceship, and then that whole thing just fails basically.
Yeah,
they actually said they had to edit out they wanted to do a lot with the Flashpoint Batman mini, but that just unfortunately because of time didn't make the cut. So pretty much you just get that one scene. It was like their pearls dropping. Legend. Oh, you love that.
Oh, scene, I know, man.
But at least you get that scene where Bruce died and.
This has nothing to do with the Flashpoint, but last night I finally watched the Joker movie, and God damn it, Carson, those pearls fell again. I was like, God, why can't I get away from these pearls? I thought the movie was pretty good. It didn't feel like a DC movie. It just felt like some kind of taxi movie, like updated Taxi. De Niro movie was funny. De Niro was in the movie, but yeah, the pearls, you got the pearls. It was just crazy, man. They drew the pearls are classic.
Yeah,
so right now
had the pearls, man.
Oh, so heavy,
dude! Look at that thing, dude.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through the 52 issues that followed Flashpoint, and you guys can kind of chime in if you think these are worth seeking out and reading. Because, like I said, let's see if these should be lost in time.
I bought about half.
Or are they worth? Yeah, I was going to say, Legend. That's why I'm glad you're here because I know you've read a decent amount of these.
I was so addicted to New 52. That's what got me back. And Andy, I didn't read Flashpoint, but I did get on the New 52 train, and man, it was insane, man. I couldn't believe I was really enjoying DC, because back as a kid, I got Jurgen's Superman, but I mean, I was Marvel, man. Marvel for life in the 90s. then I kind of converted to the dark comics, if you will, the DC.
Yeah, so of course the big launch title, I think if I remember, I feel like this came out either the same week or maybe right before Flashpoint 5, and that's Justice League #1. You had Geoff Johns and Jim Lee together, which would even state the importance of what was going on at the executive level of DC, because throughout the 2000s is mainly Dan DiDio in charge. Yeah. He's the guy who kind of brought you through 1 year later, 52, Infinite Crisis. We'll talk much more about that next week, obviously. But around 2010, early 2011, that's when they gave Geoff Johns and Jim Lee those executive roles. So it was all three of them now. And that's where they kind of concocted what Flashpoint was going to be and what the New 52 was going to be. So this was a pretty important book. And it's a template for what the Justice League is, basically. You get the big seven together and they fight Darkseid, more or less. It's more or less what the movie should have been.
It's kind of like, you take that storyline and you then, Andy, right after you watch Flashpoint, watch the animated called Justice League War. Yeah. And that's basically that New 52 Justice League. And one of the best parts, it was either in issue 1 or issue 2, Green Lantern flies into Gotham. Batman is after one of the parademons that have one of the mother boxes. And Green Lantern, Al Jordan, and voiced by Nathan Fillion in the old the Justice League War. He says, "That's right. You don't tell me you don't have power. Don't tell me you're just a guy in a bat suit, are you?" Because I think at first it's like Flashpoint. It's like everyone believes Thomas Wayne. All the teammates in Flashpoint, everyone believes Thomas Wayne is this superhero, like he's got superpowers because the lore, the legend of this character, kicking ass in Gotham and everything. But they kind of play that up in the Justice League issue 1. It's like Nathan Fillion, the old Green Lantern, goes, "You're just a guy in a bat suit." I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I did love the way that Justice League issue 1 starts. It has that same scene where Green Lantern's in Gotham and he actually encounters Batman for the first time, and allegedly Batman had only been in operation for 5 years, which leads me. Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the Batman. The 10,000 Robins he's had in 5 years. But anyway, apparently 5 years of operation, and he was still like folklore, basically.
I get a new Green Lantern every year.
When Green Lantern meets him in the first scene of Justice League 1, he's just like, "You're real? Not really?" Like, he doesn't even know he's supposed to be real. So it was a pretty fun scene, especially when you get to that movie. It's delivered by Nathan Fillion, who did a lot of work with Hal Jordan in those animated movies.
Oh, he was in the Flashpoint movie too, I think.
Yes, he was. I think that was supposed to be like a launch of their animated movie universe. So they actually had the Flashpoint paradox, and then it just recently ended with the Apocalypse War.
Yeah.
So I think those are all like their own continuity. Like
I love those.
With the death of Superman, the reign of the Superman and stuff too, because they have like the Jerry O'Connell version of Clark Kent in there as well eventually. The next book they brought out was Justice League International #1. Dan Jurgens did write the thing, so it was a fun book, but definitely not necessary. It had a lot of those characters they brought in the late 80s after the original Crisis, like your Blue Beetle, your Booster Gold. So it had a fun cast, but ultimately they didn't really give the book a chance to breathe, and the run for it was one of the first ones they canned. So I would say that one's not necessary. But the next one I would recommend, because it's not a book you would think would be good, but a certain writer's like, I want to get this guy over. A Geoff Johns, Ivan Rice, Aquaman #1.
It was good. It was
very good. Yeah.
I had about, God, I got to look. I don't know. That's one of the series I still have. And I don't know if I collected it all the way up to 52, but I got the Trench in there, and I got the Throne of that. I think it was that old
Throne of Atlantis. Yeah,
the Throne of Atlantis storyline was excellent. And then later down the line, you got that old ghost guy trying to come back and become king again. Oh man, that was a good run.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like pretty much the Geoff Johns duration of Aquaman #1 was good. Once he stepped off of that book, that's where you can you can step off with him. Kind of like his Green Lantern run. Like once he's done, you can just leave the book. Wonder Woman by Brian Azarella and Cliff Chang from Paper Girls fame. This was a fun book too. I think if you're talking the most successful of the relaunches. I would say Wonder Woman should be up there, even though like when there's a crisis, she's the first one to get a new origin, what have you. And this was no exception, but I think this was a very fresh take on the character. It integrated even more of the classic Greek god stuff, and you get to interact with those characters a lot more. And Brian Azarella gives a new take on those. So I actually recommend Wonder Woman #1.
I really enjoyed that Wonder Woman run for the first few volumes. It's probably the only Wonder Woman I've ever really read. But I think that Azarello, who I'm not a huge fan of, really got to stretch his legs and kind of do what he wanted with Diana in a way that he probably wouldn't have gotten that kind of freedom with another character. Because like you said, she's always being given a new origin. Yes. Because no matter how classic she may be, she's just a shit character. And I'm going to say that right now. Aww. People might hate on me for that.
Old man ain't going to like hearing that.
Well, I mean, it just is what it is, man. Wonder Woman is not interesting for the most part, and Azarello did the most work in making her interesting in a very, very long time.
You know, George Perez had some good Wonder Woman in the 80s.
Who?
Keep trying to get that gimmick over, man.
Yeah, the George Perez.
I don't know. Next up was another interesting one. The Flash #1. You figure of all people to get the big push after this would be the Flash. Kind of. Sort of. It was an interesting spot because the previous Flash book, like I said, The Return of Barry Allen, featured Geoff Johns on the writing duties, and Francis Manapul is the guy who stole that book. His art is phenomenal. He was kind of, he got his big surge on Adventure Comics with Connor Kent as the star of that book early on. You better believe I love that book. But this was Geoff Johns, since he had so many other things going on, he handed off the baton to Brian Boccialetto, and then Francis Manapul also helped co-write it as well. But you get this phenomenal art from Manapul. So, Legend, did you get a chance to read this one?
I didn't read issue 1, but I read some of the issues. And what's funny is I think I still have that. That was part of the ones that I was getting in the pool, but I never really was reading them on, very much. But the thing I loved about them was the artwork and the fact that during that run of his, pretty much you got to see all of the classic Flash Rogues. You had a Gorilla Grodd storyline going in there. Those were all just classic.
Yeah, so there's a few more here that we could
probably the Flash.
Oh yeah. If nothing else, just get it for the Manapul artwork. He has some phenomenal panel layouts, to say the least.
I was reading Superman and Action Comics. I read those heavily up until about in the issue 20s, and then I quit reading them. But god dang, that Action Comics was freaking pretty phenomenal. I did back when I used to do reviews. I did the 1 through 12 story arc reviews. That's back in the day when I was getting 4 figures on comic book reviews. So those were some good times because the Legend had some good reviews, man.
Yeah, so I'm going to rapid fire these next few because I don't really recommend any of these titles, but stop me if we need to talk about any of them. So we have Captain Atom, The Fury of Firestorm, Green Arrow, The Savage.
Let me tell you, Arrow, that wasn't it. I did not like that one. He had a little glimpse of goodness during the Outsiders War, but other than that, not too good.
Yeah, it's like a book that really wasn't. It was relaunched in the middle of its relaunch, so you really didn't get a good run until I think it was issue 12. They brought in Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino.
That one was actually really good.
Yeah. I think that's where they eventually bring in Diggle from the show.
And
I think in issue 24. Felicity, that's right.
That's the first time we get the team up of Lemire and Sorrentino, to my knowledge. And
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic book right now. It's about to end, called Gideon Falls. If you want to know more about that, you can check out my video for Carson's contest where I talk about Gideon Falls. It's on my channel.
I've been doing a full review of Gideon Falls on my channel as well.
Hell yeah. Classic Gideon Falls, baby.
Yeah, so like I said, Mr. Terrific, it didn't last long. DC Universe Presents, I kind of forgot they did that one. Paul Jenkins did the writing, which
there was some Blue Devil. Wasn't there a Blue Devil issue in there? And God, I think maybe Black Lightning maybe had an issue in there. That kind of the C&D listers.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a good way to bring in like your one shots and stuff.
Yeah.
But here is trying to be nice about this, but I don't know if I can. Here's the one that really, really got on my nerves. right off the bat. There was one decent book in the midst, but they completely like reinvented the way Superman was. They made him the Kryptonians more alien, that stuff. So you had Superman, Superboy, Supergirl, and Action Comics. So Superman had George Perez, which left the title after I think 3 issues.
It didn't stick on it long.
So that never really found its identity until they brought in, like you said, Drew, earlier on the off-air, George Perez and John Romita Jr. But that wasn't even until the issue 30, so I'm not even kind of counting that in the relaunch part of it. Supergirl, which I don't remember too much about either. I think she becomes a Red Lantern for a minute for some reason.
Oh, she did become a Red Lantern, yeah.
For whatever reason. Superboy #1, which I think was the worst book of the relaunch. But when I mentioned Superboy, who comes in the backstage? We got Chad. How
there
you doing,
he is,
Chad?
Superboy, Connor.
That Superboy was not our Superboy.
Oh man, you got your mic turned around again or something like that.
You
Turned off your microphone. But yeah, the one good one I thought, decent for at least like 10 issues ish, was Action Comics, Grant Morrison. Remember that one, Legend?
Good.
You can't handle Morrison.
Read those things like crazy. Like I said, did the reviews, got the 4 figures when I used to do like the reviews of books. Damn, that was.
Who was on the art on that? Was that Greg Pak?
No, it was. It was Rags Morales.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
Morales.
Identity Crisis fame.
Really good.
There you go.
So good.
Yeah, much better.
I think I may have sold the old Action Comics in one of the auctions, but man, what a great read though. Man, some great reads.
Yeah, the Superboy, when they announced him, I got nervous on Titans because remember his tattoo is the tattoo that he had on
Yep.
It was
That's that black shirt Superman, ain't it? That black.
He had like a
a black shirt with like a red outline.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had like a whole leotard on or whatever. But I just remember like I fell off of that book so quick. I'm like, it wasn't even Connor Kent, but it had the same idea.
The Teen Titans one is one I fell off.
I hated that book so much. They ruined all my characters from Titans. There you go. We got one turtle trigger for the
What's
night.
up with Red Robin's wings? Come on. What the fuck? That was terrible.
They ruined my girl Cassie, Wonder Girl.
Yeah.
I don't even know what happened to Bart and all this. I think he was on that Titans book too. The art was nice. Brett Booth actually made the book look good, but the writing was not great. So
that was Brett Booth.
I thought he just did wasn't it like Scott Lobdell who wrote that thing?
Yeah, Lobdell.
Lobdell. Yeah. Yeah. So
he's very hit or miss.
The Superman books, not the best except for Action, but even then, that only lasted like 10 to 12 issues.
You had a lot of little hidden gems that if you read Action, and if you go back, and if you do a little bit of the Doomsday Clock, and you go back and you see how the parents get in that car wreck, they get in mom and pop getting the car wreck when he's going to the dance or whatever. I mean, and then the little mixie-plick stuff in there. I mean, it's classic Grant Morrison. You've got to read it and just take it slow when you read it. But if you look in between the lines of the reality he's trying to show you, man, it was a good read, man.
The Action Comics, that's the one. Didn't he have the jeans on?
Yeah, he's the one who had the jeans and the T-shirt this time.
And then they had their version of Metallo, which was awful.
Yeah, that was it was Lois Lane's boyfriend or something like that for a hot minute.
And like his face was all getting ripped apart.
Yeah. And General Lane was trying to get him to be a bad guy.
Yeah. So that was basically the book that chronicled Superman's new origin, whereas the other book was his current storyline along with Justice League, if I remember right. But Andy, I'll let you talk about the next one because we get the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo Batman we got a chance to read about a month or so back.
Oh, Batman, the Court of Owls. That was a lot of fun, actually. And I was wondering if you were going to end up at that location. That's the only New 52 read that I've actually done.
Right.
So far.
It's a good one.
That's the most successful one, so it was definitely a good one to read.
Right.
It's really the only one. Most of these lasted 52 issues before they did DC Rebirth. And I think Batman is literally the only one that had the same creative team from issue 1 to issue 52.
So
only one.
Legend, can you hold my beer?
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Wait. It's weird to do these like here.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, should I put you on the big screen for
No.
this?
I want to look at Andy when I say this. Andy, this is gonna sound like I'm Drew. Scott Snyder sucks.
Damn.
Whoa.
Scott Snyder.
Whoa.
Triggered.
Whoa.
Scott Snyder
Whoa.
cannot finish one damn story. I don't care what it is. Great stories. Beginning, awesome. Middle, good. Ending, it's like me in bed.
He left.
Oh,
He
we
left.
lost him.
He left. Look,
He
I'm
left.
going to go ahead and pile on a little bit on Scott.
He's
Snyder.
not even backstage. He's gone.
Man, he
He's,
did.
he's back. Like I'm going to
we
pile
haven't
on
talked
Scott
about my
Snyder a little bit
C-lister.
here. He doesn't really finish a whole lot of stories, but the thing he does give you fantastic ends to arcs. So I think
Kinda
that's
what he's doing.
like each
Put the shield on the top rope.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
that,
Curve
shield
Al's-
on, get that shield on that top rope.
I don't want to be in a basement. I'm leaving.
Fucking shield. Shield on the top.
Stern Friday for a second.
That's
Man, we need to do that more often.
Drew,
Oh,
I mean,
God.
he cannot finish a story.
Well, that's the thing it's just his style of
It's
writing.
New
He's
52.
great at cliffhangers that draw you into the next story. So I think that you feel like he's not finishing something because the end of something is always the start of something else. And I think when you look at like Last Night on Earth that they did, that's got a solid end to it. It wasn't great all the way through it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But like Metal ends with the start of his Justice League run. The Justice League run ends with the start of Death Metal. Like and everything he does kind of leads into the next thing. So I think if he ends up leaving DC eventually, you'll get a really good ending on his run. I think that Batman, his run was a little bit hampered by this 5-year timeline nonsense that makes no sense. But beyond that, the best run on Batman in the history of Batman. Like,
I'll agree with
hands
that.
down, he is the most prolific Batman writer, the best Batman writer that I've ever read. And you know, I'll fight somebody in the street over that.
And I
But,
think it was
I mean-
most successful because we got Greg Capullo at DC.
Yeah,
Right. Fantastic gothic horror style on Batman.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
But everybody talks about the Court of Owls, the death.
You know why they talk about the Court of Owls, Chad? Because it's classic.
It's classic.
No, but Year Zero is so much better.
Year
Year Zero is pretty good.
I mean,
I think that was the last really good arc in that whole run.
and there's another story
like that Endgame stuff too. I thought that was great. I was a big fan of the super heavy stuff where Gordon was the mech Batman. That was cool.
But he fought a plant.
Dude, Mr. Bloom
Yeah.
is like one of the greatest new villains in the history of comics, and they completely let that go, and we're doing the Batman who laughs. Like, come on, man.
It seemed like
All-Star
Mr. Bloom
Western.
was. It seemed like Mr. Bloom
That's
should
new
have been
52 book right
an
here, Andy.
X-Men
The
villain.
All-Star Western.
Which is
Jonah
why he's
Hex
so
got his
awesome.
own book in New 52. I was just like head over heels, man.
How many issues did that go?
Well, not as many as some, but I mean, it went about 20 something.
24? I think it was
I got
24
my
issues.
boy, my Jimmy. Jimmy put his full name on there,
Palmiotti.
and he gave me one of them
Nice.
little remarks on there.
That's
I love
cool.
this thing.
It actually went longer than Static Shock. Static Shock went last.
Well,
Oh yeah, dude! Didn't that go like 8 issues? Didn't it?
8
Talk
issues.
about how many
yeah.
people have
God.
fond memories of Milestone and how few people actually bought those books.
I do want to shout out Jason Cantu, aka Comics Must Explain in the chat. He says
Mirror.
Black Mirror is one of his favorite Batman reads with that Francesco Francavilla art, which
Oh,
is kind of an
yeah.
interesting. I'm glad he mentioned that because what they did at the Batman office is they just like, all right, Scott Snyder, you're doing Detective Comics, you're not doing Batman. Tony Daniel, you're doing Batman, you're now doing Detective Comics. They just flipped them for whatever reason. Who knows? That maybe it was just a mutual agreement, but yeah, the
Detective
next
was
book
fun,
on
too.
the list was Detective Comics by Tony Daniel. So yeah, not too bad. But the only thing I really, really remember from it is that's where Joker loses his face in that issue 1 of Detective. So people were going
Yeah.
bananas.
You know,
when
I
that thing
had
came out.
the detectives, and you know, I sold the detectives and I sold my Batman run of the New 52. You know, because they needed new homes, and man, I just needed to get rid of all that
You
excess.
probably
New
sold them
52.
while they were worth something. Like now the value's kind of dropped a little bit, but
Well,
I mean,
well,
they
even
were.
Batman, the number one was about a $25 book, and I think I sold the
I
whole
think
run
I
for
think it's
$25.
Yeah, I remember that, man.
It
Someone
went
got
up
a
to
steal.
about $150, $200 for like a 9.8 for a little
Yeah,
while, and
yeah.
now it's back down to reasonable rates. So like if you get your hands on it
Yeah.
now,
Back in the day
Um,
when I sold those runs, man, people made some good deals because they just back in the day they just didn't spend too much money, I guess, but they got some good deals.
Yeah, so we had
Suicide Squad.
Batwoman #1 next. J.H. Williams, great art. The writing was average on it. I wish Greg Rucka would have been on this book, to be honest. I really enjoyed his Batwoman stuff, and for whatever reason, I think he was basically just at Marvel at this point.
So the Bat family though, like
They
when
made
it
out
came-
like bandits, yes.
Yeah, the New 52 the Bat family itself, they really didn't nothing. The continuity never changed that.
No, neither did Green Lantern. They were the
Yeah,
two that
you're
pretty
right.
much stayed exactly the
Green
same.
Lantern State. Yep, you're right.
Which that's what I was going to say around this point. We mentioned before you hopped on the Justice League book how I think they acknowledge that Batman has only been in operation for 5 years when the New 52 main line is happening. So the fact that you get all these Batman books with this much Batman family, plus Damian, who's like a 10-year-old Robin at this point, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
I never thought about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what kind of
I think if you
ruined a lot of
ignore
stuff
it,
for me early
it's
on.
fine. I
Exactly.
think that's what editorial did, is they just ignored it.
Exactly. They just like, if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, they're going to reinvent
Right.
it here.
I think this was the after Flashpoint. That's when DC becomes the Batman company, right? It's been
I
the
agree.
Superman company for 70 years. Not anymore. It's now the Batman company.
I
To
don't
the point
think
where
I
the
don't-
number one hero is Batman and the number one villain is Batman. Like,
I don't think though. I don't think they've been the Superman company since probably the blue and red split.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
like
man.
the mid '90s. I mean, yeah, once the '90s ended, I feel like Superman did lose a little bit of his esteem, with the exception of maybe the Jeff Loeb stuff.
I think
But
he
every
did-
time-
every time you do
Superman.
a big crossover event, anytime there's a crisis, it was all Superman story. It was a Superman story, and then like that now the this is the time they take the crisis, they make it a Flash story, right?
Only to hear, and we
But
still
when
have all up here to cover.
Yeah. Go ahead then. I'll shut up.
No worries. I was like, this is gonna be a 2-hour show at this rate because we still haven't talked about any alternate realities yet. We had Batman: The Dark Knight, which they let David Finch write and draw. David Finch wanted to be more of a writer. It is what it is. Probably not a necessary book, but if you like David
Looks
Finch,
good.
definitely worth
Artwork
it.
was
Yeah.
amazing. Stories, me.
Here's one of my most underrated books in all of New 52: Batman and Robin, Peter J. Tomasi, Pat Gleason. Drew, what did you think of that one?
Best book.
Yes.
Best book of the New 52 by
Yep.
far.
I've still got that
Tomasi's
whole run.
take on Robin is on Damian Wayne is
Favorite.
Morrison created that character,
Mhm.
but Tomasi made him lovable,
Yep.
made him a character that you felt could be redeemed at some point. I liken it to Rob Liefeld created Deadpool, right? But Joe Kelly made Deadpool. It was the writer that picked him up and ran with him.
Drew, you
that
got the
made
silent
him,
issue too.
yeah.
Damn.
Dude, so many great, just so many great moments with Damian where he basically learns to be a freaking human being. Like he was an assassin, a child assassin, and he learns how to be a human being. He learns how to be a kid, and that runs right into the Rebirth stuff where Tomasi was writing Superman and Super Sons and really explores that character a whole lot more throughout those runs as well. So I really enjoy his take on Batman, but I also really enjoy his take on Robin.
I loved Goliath.
Goliath's great.
Black Goliath.
No, he's got Robin has a man bat as a pet.
Damn.
Yeah.
Red.
Yeah, so that book definitely worth, especially like, yeah, even when they do kill off Damian for a little bit, the book is still pretty solid.
Oh, but when they bring him back, dude, Batman,
yeah, that too.
Batman's a
Right, and then he's got
badass.
superpowers for a little while. That was great too.
That was
And
awesome.
I think this was truly the first book where Bruce and Damian did get the team up, because Volume 1 was Dick Grayson as Batman in that one.
Yeah, that was a Grant Morrison.
That was a fantastic run.
It was, yes. So this was a great sequel to that run. The Batman Robin line they had going on for a while was must read, in my opinion. It doesn't get enough love today.
That Frank Whiteley art was just really great too.
Absolutely.
But I think who took over all the art in the New 52?
Oh, Pat Gleason in the Batman Robin? Or are you talking about after him?
Yeah, Gleason. Gleason's so freaking great. He's doing some Spider-Man stuff with Marvel now. I'm so excited to have him kind of branching out and doing other things, because he's done such great work for DC, and it's cool to see him work on covers and interiors with some different characters. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that dude. I met him at C2E2.
Filibusters are classic, but we got to get on with the show. We got to talk alternate realities. Classic.
All right, next up, Batgirl #1. A little controversial when it first started, because they kind of we didn't
Brought
have
her out of the chair.
Batgirl, and Killing Joke it brought her out of the chair. Absolutely, it did. So pretty solid
Adam
first run.
Hughes cover.
Owen got brought onto the book as well. So very good run in my opinion. Even got better when they did the Babs Tarr art later on.
That Batgirl Burnside, great redesign.
Yes.
I'm a little upset they went away from that.
Me too. Batwing #1. Legend, did you get a chance to read Judd Winnick's Batwing?
I did not like that at all. I read like the first issue, nothing else after that. I mean, I kind of liked him in the Batman Incorporated, but I didn't think that dude deserved his own title.
Yeah,
Man, I like Judd Winnick better when he's crying about how Pedro died.
Classic. I liked Judd Winnick when he created the Red Hood.
Absolutely. Which we're almost to that. Yeah, Red Hood and the Outlaws. Unfortunately, that wasn't a Judd Winnick book. Judd Winnick also had Catwoman, who you got some great Gilliam March art on at least. But yeah, Red Hood and the Outlaws.
Classic.
Once again, Scott Lobdell, Kenneth Rockford. Beautiful book, but I kind of felt like it was similar with Titans, where they just weren't using those characters right, especially like Starfire. I don't know what they were doing with Starfire over there.
I like Rockford's art, but he got to the point where he's putting a mouth on the Red Hood mask. Like, stop doing that.
Yeah. Then we had Birds of Prey. Yeah, that's pretty much a pass right there, in my opinion. And then, Chad, did you get a chance to read Nightwing from Kyle Higgins?
I did. Didn't like it.
That's like the only Kyle Higgins run I don't like.
Well, Nightwing got good right before I thought it was right. I thought it was good right before he got shot in the head.
Oh, and then the Rebirth stuff was solid.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to kind of also note the whole Grayson run, where they had Forever Evil and they exposed.
Now
Nightwing
I liked the Grayson run.
I didn't like Grayson.
Yeah.
It took a little while for it to hit its stride.
That was
Tom
King.
King.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe that introduced us to the wrath of Tom King.
And I thought it was pretty
really
good.
work, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I thought it was really good because it pulled from some of his experiences too.
Absolutely. All right, so now we get a ton of Green Lantern books. So, like I said, Batman was kind of the one.
All right, I'm gonna go get a drink.
Green Lantern was the other one who basically, it was just like he fell asleep one day, woke up, and everything was still normal to him. Like, like the only transitional thing I think Geoff Johns needed to do to go between regular, pre-New 52 Green Lantern and post-New 52 Green Lantern is they took the ring off of him for a little bit. So he had a spat with the Guardians, as Highball Howl will eventually do, and they took the ring off of him and gave it to Sinestro because Sinestro saved the day in the last run they had right before all this happened. So you get that issue 1 with Sinestro on the cover holding the ring.
Cool.
So a great way to sell a book. Doug Mankey stayed on the title. Absolutely love his underrated artist.
Remember that Hector Hammond artwork in there?
Absolutely.
Who built that makeshift power ring that he had?
Are you talking about the Weaponers in the yellow ring?
He had this backpack that he had to carry. It had the ring on. Remember?
Oh, you're talking about that. I can't remember. Now it's like Teen Lantern basically has the same thing in Young Justice. Yeah. But yeah, Green Lantern, if you like the Geoff Johns run, it's still necessary reading because this is the tail end of the Geoff Johns run, basically. You get 19 issues, I believe, of Johns, and that issue 19 actually has an ending for his entire run. So it reads into all the stuff he's done rather than just being a fresh start. They give you that fresh start with Sinestro as the Green Lantern, but eventually you get introduced to a new Green Lantern around issue 12, which he didn't do too much for me.
Was that old Simon?
Simon Baz, yeah, you get Simon Baz in his first appearance eventually after, like, I think issue 0, or they do like an annual. So Simon Baz, he didn't do too much.
I hated that.
He had a very short run with the book. It was like lasted 3 issues before Sinestro and Hal were brought back into the War of the Lanterns or whatever the last arc was. But you also had Green Lantern Corps. Peter Tomasi stayed, but unfortunately, Gleason couldn't do 2 books, obviously, because he was doing Batman and Robin. Not too much special going on there. It was still the B book for the Green Lantern. But we also got the C book, which wasn't too bad. Kyle Rayner pretty much led this book. Green Lantern New Guardians, but you got Tony Beddard. They kept him writing on Green Lantern, which is always a great thing as well. The Tony Beddard stuff, once again, doesn't get enough love. Great stuff there, in my opinion. If you like the 90s Kyle Rayner run, Tony Beddard does a good job with the character. And you have Tyler Kirkham still on the art in that book as well. So I know there's a lot of Tyler Kirkham fans out there. The one I kind of passed on and never heard too much great about, and Legend, maybe you've read this, Red Lanterns.
Oh my God. I
didn't pick that one up at all.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then it
you didn't like it when Guy Gardner got the red ring?
No, I liked it because he was half red and half green. And that was kind of cool. And then watching him over. But then what did me in is
Supergirl?
The Supergirl. God, dude, they just made her super over the top powerful. But then they repeated the same story this year. And that's what bothered me. Like, it was a cool stand. Like, the ring, they ultimately wanted Superman, but they got her. She was trying to be good and she was trying to overcome being a Red Lantern, but it was supposed to be Superman. So what does the Joker that laughs does? He has a batarang that's supposed to make Superman into the Superman that laughs, and then accidentally instead hits Supergirl, and it's the exact same story.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn. But the covers and stuff are awesome. I did not like Kyle Reiner in this interpretation.
Carl Reiner. I'm sorry, Chad.
Carl Reiner.
I can imagine Carl Reiner with a Green Lantern ring.
No, but because his mask,
that like meathead.
His mask, his mask was literally.
That's Rob Reiner.
Was like this. Was like this big.
The insanity chips. Yeah,
his fucking mask was that
Don't
big.
Put those Pocky chips on your eyes, dude. You're gonna burn them out.
Now they're in a little.
What other kind of books?
Carson was the Cullen Bunn Sinestro came later.
Later, yes,
and it was good.
But I didn't read any further than that first arc, but I really enjoyed that.
That was a good storyline.
Well, I mean, if you're a lot of people bought the books, but like one of the most underrated books out of the New 52 was I, Vampire.
Oh yeah. Tell me about I, Vampire real quick.
I, Vampire was such a good book, and as a normal comic book reader, somebody just picked it up, they'll read the first issue, and then you read the second issue, and you're like, what the fuck did I just read? I just read this. It's the same story, but it was being told by 2 separate points of view. It was from him and her, and it was so good. And like, nobody talked about it, but it was such a classic run when it came around here. And my shops, there's a lot of readers there, and that particular book just flew off the shelves.
It was classic, man. Sometimes those you don't think nothing of it. I, Vampire, DC, where's the Batman? Where's the Superman books? They wouldn't ever think of that. But they had a little good action in the they kind of crossed over with that Justice League Dark title.
Oh man, Justice League.
Yeah, that's the next title up, Justice League Dark.
Justice League Dark was so good. So good.
If you're a fan of those magic characters, I mean, you had to get the JLD, man.
Let me zoom in on Drew's face here.
I'm still picking that damn book up. That's one of the few, maybe like I only still get 3 DCs. That's one of them I still get.
Zoom in on my face again, Carson, because I want people to realize. There we go.
I did that on purpose.
Everybody calls me a DC hater, but you see my DC display behind me. You got that giant dark side Supergirl flying right there. Yeah, look at that shit right there behind me.
Was Constantine on that Justice League Dark?
He guest appeared in issues here and there.
Constantine.
Swamp Thing too, guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the next up on this. Andy, these are the two I highly suggest.
He's going to say Swamp Thing and Animal Man.
Yeah,
Oh my God,
that's on the list,
damn.
right back to back. Swamp Thing and Animal Man. You get Swamp Thing, Scott Snyder and Yannick Paquette. Beautiful Yannick Paquette art. They brought justice to this character who really hasn't seen a huge run since the Alan Moore stuff and Saga of Swamp Thing. And he had some decent stuff. I can't remember who all the other writers were, but it really wasn't brought back to the to the peak until Scott Snyder came back. I think that was just as strong, if not maybe even a little bit more consistent than his Batman work. And it's only, I think he lasted 19-20 issues as well. Then Charles Soule, if I remember correctly, follows them up. Pretty awesome. And then Animal Man, Jeff Lemire. Jeff Lemire, this is probably his best New 52 book, in my opinion.
It's the only Animal Man book I've ever read.
Yeah, and it's once again, it's bringing justice to this character who got his spotlight in the 80s and never really got a chance to shine in the 90s. If you read the Grant Morrison stuff and read just this, you'll be satisfied with everything in between. You don't even need to visit.
Yeah, I think Lemire's Animal Man is great.
It holds up on its own as well.
I didn't know anything about the character, and I enjoyed it.
I think around issue 13, they had what's called Rot World, where they team up those two books and they co-write them together. And it's just a nice run after that. They each suffer tragedy and deal with it kind of together before Rot World ends. And then
the red, the green, and the rot. And then Abigail Arcane was so freaking fine. Oh my God, I love that girl.
Lemire's Animal Man like kind of straddles this line from being one of the creepiest, most fucked up books I've ever read, and also like a kind of a really cool family story where like you're getting some authentic child voices in the first run. I thought it was really great.
Yeah, Cliff and Maxine,
man,
doing what they do. Man, Cliff got that Billy Ray Cyrus haircut, didn't he?
Yeah. How do I time out Comics Misexplained?
No, you don't time him out. He has to return my phone call. I've called him 13 times.
Well, maybe if I time him out, he'll have time to return your phone call, Chad.
I don't know why he won't call.
He's making disparaging remarks about me in the chat.
So we have Frankenstein, Agents of Shade.
That was good.
Yeah.
Great.
Resurrection Man, Demon Knight, Stormwatch, Grifter, Voodoo, Deathstroke, OMAC. Is any of those books?
I got the OMAC, but it was just okay.
I read the Grifter book because I wanted it to be good. I cannot tell you that it is good.
Frankenstein Agent of Shade is actually really
that
good.
Is I read that. Pretty good stuff.
I like that good.
That was a good one.
Agent of Shade
I liked OMAC too because OMAC did an homage to the lady in the box.
Oh yeah,
Dan DiDio. Dan DiDio actually helped write that book.
That was a good book.
Yeah. So the other big one, Suicide Squad, pretty much brought. Let's get the. So Legend gives us the official Batista. So Suicide Squad's rating,
but dude,
never got into that.
But what was bullshit about that book is, like, there were a ton of covers that were speculation books.
There was a bunch of them.
And I think it was like 28. There was one where she's like she's big and like she's dropping all of them into something. And literally I went to get a buddy of that comic too because I had my pull list, and they're like, dude, some dude came in here and bought them all. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And a lot of those books were spec back then.
It was probably the first time they brought in Harley officially in the Suicide Squad, and they gave her that new costume where, she had short shorts on and all that stuff, and some people loved it, some people didn't.
Yeah,
so I think it was mainly because of the Harley Quinn influence that book was as successful. It's probably like
Slutty Harley's
today, if you're looking for speculation purposes, that's probably like your main book you want to go after. Like, because Batman was valuable for a while, but obviously that's cooled off over the last 9 years. But I think Suicide Squad's been like the one, just because obviously they printed more copies of Batman than they did Suicide Squad.
The downfall of the New 52 is when like they promised these books, and they had like it was going to be weekly, and some of them were weekly, bi-weekly, but then all of a sudden, then you got a Justice League of America, JLA.
Yeah, with all the flags.
Yeah, and then
and then
you got a Justice League versus Justice League of America crossover, but it was more
Justice League Dark versus.
But it was a more of a Pandora story when she was opening Pandora's box and
the Trinity of Sin storyline and all that.
But that was a good story. That was good.
The Trinity of Sin. Yeah, that was a fun story.
Is your Trinity of Phantom Stranger, Pandora, and the Question, kind of solving all the shit going on.
I'm just gonna rapid fire everything else because Legend already touched on All-Star Western.
It's good.
The last ones were OMAC. We already mentioned that too. Blackhawks, Men of War, thumbs down to Teen Titans.
I got Men of War.
Hawk and Dove, which was just to keep Rob Liefeld happy for a minute. Blue Beetle, Legion Lost, and Legion of Superheroes. That's the new 52.
There's a handful of new 52 books you can.
Jaime Reyes got his own love in that new 52, but he also got love in prior to new 52 as well. And if you like that kind of it kind of reminds me of the Young Nova storyline. If you like reading about how a younger kid adapts to having powers, they kind of go hand in hand. That Young Nova and Jaime kind of the same.
I mean, Justice League was good, but wasn't Justice League New 52? The ending was the Darkseid Wars.
Yeah,
and then it didn't change in Rebirth. It continued the story because then. I mean, at one point,
that's where you get the first announcement of the 3 Jokers, Chad. Let's not get into that. It's going to make me angry.
And you had your Oz and your Dr. Manhattan teasers.
But also, like, was it New 52 or was it in Rebirth? Like, Supergirl had a brother.
I wasn't even reading that at that point.
Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah, that was Rebirth. Yeah, that was like right after the Ruckus stuff, I think.
Because then they, at one point, wasn't she going to be like having baby? Because I think they
were going to raise baby Darkseid.
Yeah, and then Grail came and stole it.
Yeah,
then Dr. Manhattan came along and he changed the reality, and that brings us, Carson, to the next topic. Why don't you tell us about the alternate realities?
Well, I do have one more question for one more person on the panel before we move on to that. And I want to ask Andy, is the newer reader of the group, everything we just mentioned in New 52, are there any of those books you actually want to go back and read? Because at the end of the day, that's like what matters most. Are these books, readable to new readers? Do new readers actually still want to revisit these? So everything we just talked about, is there anything at all that stood out, or are you just going to move on from this?
Swamp Thing, Animal Man, Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
No. Swamp Thing and Animal Man, because you talk about them all the time, but the bulk of them, not necessarily.
There's only a handful that are really, really great reads all the way through. And it's like Batman, Justice League, Batman and Robin. I would say I check out Lemire's Animal Man. I didn't read the whole thing, but what I read, I really, really enjoyed. And you got there's a lot of just fluff that you do not need in the New 52. A lot of characters were revamped as like darker, more realistic versions, and you can just they undid it all with Rebirth, and then they redid it all recently. So who knows?
I agree. I say like 25% is like really kick ass, but the rest is like really just freaking fluff. I mean, if you have digital, read it on there, but I wouldn't go out and buy any of them. Screw that.
All right, let's think about alternate realities now. So
read Hawk and Dove.
Oh, that's terrible.
You might have to go to the optometrist after you read that one. But anyway,
because you pluck your own eyes out.
Yeah. So, like I was saying earlier, like the vibes in this one kind of gave me a lot of those vibes of Age of Apocalypse, where they just kind of froze everything for a little bit, or at least like a lot of main continuity stuff, and you just got that alternate reality for a little bit. So, Drew, you got any other notes for Age of Apocalypse?
I love Age of Apocalypse. It's absolutely phenomenal in my mind. A lot of it does not age well. It is super dense. So if you've not read it before and you're like, oh, I'm going to read this now, it does not read like a modern comic at all. It's like very, very 90s and super dense. There's just so many words on each page. The art is the reason to really get into it for my money. And to kind of, if you are an X-Men fan, to see those characters in their skewed versions. Some of it's come back to play, and I think some of the revisits to the universe were worth reading. Yeah, man, just check out the character designs, and you've probably pretty much gotten the most out of it that you're going to get.
The only thing I remember about Age of Apocalypse was in X-Men Legends 2, I unlocked the Juggernaut Age of Apocalypse costume.
It's pretty dope. It's pretty dope,
I remember
man.
like that was some of the Legion Quest freebie that was in the Wizard magazine. Was the first X-Men book I ever got.
The greatest part
like
of Age of Apocalypse is Sugar Man.
Yeah. So what were the titles? I'm sorry, Carson.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I remember the art was great on those two. Because I think you had both Kubert brothers. You had Joe Mad. It was your like main three artists on your X-Men books. I'm sure there were other ones too. I'm forgetting right this second. But yeah, to Chad's question, I think you had Weapon X.
Yeah, X-Man first.
Yeah, it had
X-Man.
X-Man after. I think it was after that. I don't think
maybe
it started during. I can't remember.
No, X-Man had a 4-part series during Age of Apocalypse as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gambit and
the Externals.
Gambit and the Externals. Astonishing.
Where they were on it. That's actually my favorite book out of the group because when they all have this plan to like change the universe, they send Gambit, who's a thief, with his team of thieves. He's got like strong guy on the team. And their mission is to it's a jewel heist, but they've got to steal the Mcron crystal from the Shi'ar Empire. That's pretty cool.
Astonishing X-Men.
Astonishing, amazing X-Men.
I think there's one called Universe X too, wasn't there? Which
Universe X was a 2-part series, and that was about the humans and the remaining, Avengers that were alive during the time. And that was what it was.
But it's
speaking of the Ultimate X-Men, Carson.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the Ultimate. I was going to mention two crazy Marvel universes that we'll get the Ultimate in a second. But I also want to talk about Heroes Reborn because that was pretty much close to being right after the whole Age of Apocalypse. So once again, 90s Marvel doing whatever they could to avoid bankruptcy. Yeah. They had that whole Onslaught saga where the X-Men got their ass whipped by Onslaught, which was like an amalgamation of Charles Xavier, Magneto. That involved all of the Marvel Universe, and anybody they kind of didn't really care about at the time got into this void that was Onslaught and then into their own pocket universe, which was formed by Franklin Richards. So what was it? The Avengers, Iron Man,
Fantastic
Four, and
Captain America.
Captain America, yes. The Rob Liefeld Captain America. So at least
there was that Liefeld had a Daredevil too.
Jim Lee had that FF though.
Yes, he did.
That FF was actually pretty good. It's like the only one of those books.
Remember that Invisible Woman Santa Claus cover?
Yeah, man. Was that issue 3?
Yeah, like the variant or whatever.
They actually used that as a reason to bring back Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld from Image for the first time. So that was the first time they came back to Marvel after leaving and founding Image. So it was a big deal because of that back in the day.
Didn't Silvestri do some stuff as well?
He had to have, but I think he was on his way to forming Top Cow with the Witchblade and the Darkness around.
It was around the same time.
Yeah, it was probably like 97, 98 when all that stuff hit pretty big. But yeah, then 2000. Oh, go ahead, Chad.
Do you remember that the Captain America chest?
Oh my God!
That wasn't even a released image. It was a promo image that I hate to.
Wizard though.
Yeah, it ended up in Wizard, and that's where it came from. But I'll give Liefeld a little bit more credit on that. That was not supposed to be finished art. So
somehow it got.
I mean, he's still trash, but he's not that much
in the
trash.
Magazine though.
I don't understand how that. Yeah.
But yeah, the next big thing for Marvel would have been the Ultimate Universe in 2000. Bendis, Mark Millar, forming all that awesome universe over there. Definitely check out
Marvel Zombies.
Then Marvel Zombies, another alternate universe.
Fantastic
there you go.
21. They got the Marvel Zombies, and that spawned all this stuff. And man, Marvel's had some really good alternate realities.
Yeah, I think once they did the Ultimate stuff, that's the way they did it right. So you kept the mainline stuff going for the core fans. And then you had this new line that could get new readers hooked. And unfortunately, it got all the readers hooked instead. And no one really cared about like your regular line Avengers to the point where they brought in Bendis to refresh that as well.
Yeah, I think that Marvel also has a pretty new alternate universe that they're kind of milking for all it's worth now. And that's the Old Man universe.
That's right.
Old Man Logan.
Logan led into
All time.
Old Man Will, and Avengers of the Wasteland. So there's some other stuff going on there.
But Chad wants to go back to the 90s and 2000s, I know, because there were two books I was going to mention for him: Exiles and Mutant X.
Yes,
I love Exiles.
Awesome. Exiles was so good, and Mutant X was a badass. It's when
I've never read Mutant X.
It starts out when they kill off Alex Summers in the plane, and when his plane blows up, he ends up in like a different reality where, like, he's with the vampire. Remember when Jean got bit by a vampire, and she's like,
Dude.
Now,
I remember
is Soldier
that
X
storyline.
in the Mutant X universe, or is that just a different Cable book?
no, that's a different game.
I've never read that either. I always see it, and
You
I'm
guys
like,
are
what the fuck is
forgetting. You
this?
guys are forgetting one though.
What's that? Go ahead.
House of M.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. That one there. Yep.
Yeah, that
House
is.
of M is great.
Yeah.
You got to put classic up for that. That damn House
Yeah.
of M. That's classic.
You know what I'm going to put classic up for, and so we're going to talk about it right now, and we're going to say Age of X-Men. Wait, nobody.
Take the
Okay,
classic
I'll
off
take it
now,
down.
please.
Take it
Thank
down.
you.
All right, fine.
I wouldn't like.
Well,
that.
you also
The word
said
classic. Man, you got
Age of X, or no, what was it called? Do I have the hardcover? So I remember, because there was one in between the two. X-Men had their big, like, let's cancel everything and just do this again. I think it was Age of X, wasn't it?
There was an Age of X book, but I can't
think it's more
place in my
alternate
mind what it
realities
was.
Like Cyclops had a different name,
Yeah.
and he had like this like weird like clay covering over his face, and like Rogue was the leader of the X-Men or something. And I think Clayman did a lot of the art on that, and it was pretty forgettable, but it was almost kind of like their version of all that again.
Dude,
But the
look,
DC side of things,
Has ever read that?
can I show you this this real quick? Oh,
yep.
hold on one second.
Holding on 1 second for Chad to pull the graphic. That's classic.
Classic. But I mean,
Well-
look at this. Look at this team. This team was awesome.
What team?
For Mutant X.
Oh, here we go.
Like, here it is. You had Vampire Storm, a very like weird
Bloodstorm.
Iceman who like loved to kill people. You had a very bat demonic archangel.
Is that Abomination there?
No, that's Beast, but he's like,
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
He's like an amphibian.
What do you
And-
like? Go Gamma?
and then what is it, Madeline
Alan
Pryor?
Pryor? Yeah.
Damn.
And I think Spider-Man was in it, and this actually made Havoc actually
Pretty cool.
super interesting. Otherwise, because he's a boring.
I like
Whoa,
I like
whoa.
I like
Havoc
the
is
X Factor,
amazing.
the new X Factor.
Havoc is a great character, man.
But when they
the X
brought
Factor.
him back, Drew, he kept on having flashbacks, and I'm trying to think. In the second issue, the second issue, Captain America joins their team, and so does Gambit.
Hmm.
And Captain America is it was the guy that was Nomad for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we could probably spend an hour talking about alternate realities, even on just on X-Men's alternate reality.
There's been some good TV shows with alternate realities.
Yeah, go ahead, Legend.
Yeah, let's let Legend talk about Nazis. He's wanted to talk about Nazis
I'm
all
talking
night
about
long.
Quinn. I'm talking about Quinn Mallory, Mr. Mallory.
Ah, sliders.
Oh,
Sliders, man, one of the best shows. It was kind of hokey because it was 90s, but man, back then, and I watch them to this day, man. Alternate realities for Sliders is so damn good. I mean, some of the graphics and stuff are cheesy, and of course, on Amazon Prime, man, one of my freaking favorites is old freaking John Smith, open theater. John Smith, the
Man,
you know, he used to be an American, but man, he had to join the Nazis when the Nazis won the war. But that was a damn good alternate reality storyline, and it got more sci-fi. The very first season was pretty slow, but at the end of the first season, when you figured out, okay, this show's about multiple realities, then the shit got real, man.
Yeah.
It was great.
There are two TV episodes I want to mention that had awesome alternate reality episodes. The first one for me was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think it was around season 3. They had Cordelia wish that Buffy never came to Sunnydale, and Anya, who is this vengeance demon, made the wish come true. So the entire episode takes place in a Sunnydale without Buffy, and it is just everything sucks, basically. And the ultimate twist in the middle of it is when Xander and Willow, who have been turned into vampires based on what happened in the first episode, Buffy wasn't there to save them, so they got sired into vampires. They feed and kill off Cordelia, who's the only one with memories of the actual reality. So the second half of the episode, no one knows anything but this reality. But luckily, Giles is there, and he's smart, and Cordelia dropped enough clues to Cordelia or to Giles that he can solve this. So you get, and then eventually Buffy does have to go to Sunnydale. That's how Sarah Michelle Gellar actually appears in the episode, because there were two Hellmouths. She was at the other Hellmouth, and it's just a cool episode from there. They actually revisit it later. And the other one is a Doctor Who series 4 of the new run, where I know you're not a big Donna Noble fan, Drew, but this was a good episode.
Donna. She's the Constantine of companions.
Right. She turns right instead of turns left, and somehow that killed off David Tennant's Doctor, which you get to see all that stuff that he saved previously. Everything, the world just goes to shit because he is not there. So it's kind of like a rip-off.
I actually like that episode,
but it's a good episode. So two
it's
reality episodes.
Yeah, it's one of those multiverse. Pebble in the stream can change the whole deal thing.
Absolutely.
I think that most of your best alternate realities come from somebody from the future trying to change the past, which leads me to I know we talked X-Men already, but there's only one guy who can come back from the future, and that's Bishop. And I love him and his Jerry curl mullet. That is, come on, classic for the Jerry curl mullet.
I got to give it to you. Bishop is pretty damn classic.
Yeah, he's from the future.
Batman
I'm from the future.
All right. Anybody else got any other alternate realities real quick before we sign off here they want to highlight?
Well, there's the the classic story of the Earth X, that first Justice League America when they get to meet some of those Freedom Fighter characters. That's just a classic 2-part story. You read it digitally, but Uncle Sam, I mean that's kind of a cool story. They even did that one on the CW Arrowverse one time.
Yeah,
that version sucked though.
Just like Kingdom Come and the rest of the Elseworld stuff from DC, all those are a lot of fun.
Red Sun Superman, I like that one. I finally read through that one. We could spend 3 hours just talking about alternate realities, but I think we're going to just go ahead and put a plug on the conversation there for sure, because we're an hour and 46 minutes into this episode. So, yeah, we definitely had a flashpoint of our. What's that, Chad?
Can I show something?
Sure.
So, a friend of mine sent me a picture.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Aww.
Wow.
Yep, that's from Bob World.
Sam,
dude, that's awesome, dude.
It's going up right here.
That's great.
Cover up that Marvel stuff. That's right.
Yeah, you wouldn't want good comics getting in the way of.
Shout out to Bob World once again. He's been making all of us bumpers. He's been awesome. So always
shout bumpers on my new video.
And someone was telling me about that image the other day.
Marvel.
But yeah, we'll go ahead and sign off here. So this was just part 2 of the 3-part Modern Men Crisis Trilogy, because next week I'm going to make you all pay for not voting for it. We're reading Infinite Crisis next week. It was finished dead last in the Crisis poll, but I used my wild card. I'm making Andy and Drew read the two of these guys over here in the Shield. You guys are welcome to hop in again if you'd like to put a bow on Crisis and DC and what all that means. So next week,
do we have a week 53 poll?
Yes, we do. We're getting that second in a row.
Yes.
So
I was living in an alternate universe where we didn't.
Week 52, we're going to do Infinite Crisis because, hey, 52 Infinite Crisis, it worked out perfectly. I made it happen. Thank you, Wild Card. So we're going to compare all 3 books. We're going to talk about 1 year later next week. We're going to talk about, I would highly recommend reading Countdown to Infinite Crisis as well, the 80-page giant. It's a phenomenal read. Sorry, Andy, I know it's a lot, but it's good. In my opinion.
Goodness.
But week 53's poll, we have 5 kind of Halloween related choices here. I'm going to refresh my page to see who's winning. But I made a poll today. The first entry into the poll, and Drew, you might know something about this because you made a video about it today. Gideon Falls by Geoff Lemire.
That's got my vote. I will tell you that Volume 1 is definitely more mood than substance, but that is some incredible mood going on there. Andrea Sorrentino's art, some dynamic panels with just really unique layouts, and just Dave Stewart on the colors is pretty much the unsung hero of this book. He just won a Eisner Award this year for Best Colorist, and last year in 2019, Lemire and Sorrentino won the Eisner Award for Best New Series. So it's not just me telling you it's great. It's not just Andy telling you it's great. It's critics
The Eisners, man.
telling you it's great. It's James Wan and Bad Robot optioning this thing for television, telling you it's great. It's absolutely phenomenal. And if the first volume doesn't make you want to go pick up Volume 2, you're dead inside.
Oh,
Next up, we've got American Vampire by Scott Snyder, one of Chad's favorite writers. Chad, did you get a chance to read this one?
I hated that book.
You didn't like American
Vampire?
Wow.
It was dumb, stupid.
Legend, did you like that one, didn't you? I thought somebody on this panel actually
I had
liked
an
that
old
one.
friend that, man, he loved the American Vampire, and during the New 52 stuff, he used to say, you know, when it's all said and done, Snyder's going to be remembered for American Vampire. Now, sadly, that's really not the case. I mean, he's so known for that Batman. No one gives a shit about the American Vampire, but you know, people ought to read it just to read it. I mean, it's a vampire story. You got to love those vampire stories.
Vampires are classic.
The first story,
They're Bella
first
classic.
story was okay, but the second one was
All right, moving on. We got one of my favorite current reads. I figured I'd make everybody else read it too. Ice Cream Man.
Oh, classic.
Oh, the Ice Cream Man.
I figured what perfect read for October than Ice Cream Man by W. Maxwell Prince.
I love the one thing I love about Ice Cream Man is it's kind of an anthology, kind of not. It's got kind of these undertones of a bigger story going on, but the art style looks like King of the Hill on crack, and there's something about that I absolutely love. I don't know why.
Wow.
It's just
That's
great.
a good way to put it, actually. Now, Andy, I don't know if you read this next one or not, but I thought it was a pretty solid read when it came out. Infidel.
I remember reading the first couple of issues, and it kind of got quiet. Like there was a lot of speculation hype. There was a lot of hype on the TV show. I remember being kind of thrilled by it at first, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened to it. So I got to go back and revisit that.
Yeah, Comics Book Explained loves him some Infidel. He voted for it. And then the last one,
Classic.
it's one I haven't read, but kind of has always been on my reading list as wanting to. From Hell by Alan Moore.
It's
Never
like
read it.
It's like 500 plus pages.
It's a good book.
If it wins, we're going to be doing a lot of reading this October.
That's the
Paul.
Alan Moore book that JD wants to talk about every time we bring up any other Alan Moore stuff.
Yeah,
Legend's going to talk
JD
about the
book.
Swamp Thing, or the
I would talk about
Watchmen, or
Watchmen above.
well, I'm just saying, like you bring up all these other books that Alan Moore did, and every time you do, JD's like, "Oh, have you read From Hell?" Like every time.
Oh,
that wins. We might have to bring him
Classic
on.
JD.
JD on the filibusters, man.
So,
Classic JD.
we've got,
He's probably
like I
playing
said,
Avengers right now.
Week 52. We got Infinite Crisis coming up. Look, Crypto, he's excited about it. I can't wait for that. It's one of my most looked forward to reads in Modern Men history. I love this book. I can't
Thumbs
wait
up
for
for
you guys
Crypto.
to read it.
Good artwork.
we-
Lee George Perez covers. You're gonna love it.
You
Oh,
guys
yeah.
want to hit that thumbs up button? Crypto dies.
Week 54, we'll be doing Batman The Long Halloween on October 26th. That's another one of those hashtag classics out there. So looking forward to
Why
that.
we need to get some Marvel on this fucking panel again? Come on.
I want you guys to read a Marvel Elseworld story, not Elseworld, but alternate reality.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one?
X-Men Forever, man.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I don't like X-Men Forever.
That's
How
why we
about
should
Marvel
read it. What?
Zombies?
Well,
Might
see,
as well
now
be a
that,
DC book.
I
More
have
of
a
a
question.
down in the chat.
What's going on,
Showing
Gore?
up,
More
Gore.
Vidal.
I have a
Brilliant.
question. So, what issue is everybody say that is technically the first appearance of Marvel Zombies?
I go Fantastic Four,
Yeah,
Ultimate
Fantastic Four
Fantastic
21.
Four 21 variant, where both reads are doing through the looking glass gimmick. I mean, that's freaking Lewis Carroll classic.
22 is where they kill Wolverine.
God, they're all classic. I'm just getting a headache like a MFer, though. I've been looking at computer screens too
Yeah, I was
long.
gonna say, Legend, where can people find you, man?
Man, you can find me at youtube.com/RDowdy95 over at the Great Legend Show. And on Friday nights, you can find me right here on the Comic Core as we do the round table, where we've been going over all the classic horror villains, putting them in a bracket, and they're causing a racket. Who's going to be the last one alive? You better tune in or you will die.
What about you, Andy?
Hey, you guys can find me here every Monday on Modern Men. You can find me on Turtle Tuesday.
That's
You
right.
can find me on the Wednesday Greatest Comic Book Show Ever. You can find me on Andy Given Thursdays. And then Friday, don't look for me. I'm going to go to bed.
What about you, Drew? Where can people find you?
Man, you go to that YouTube search bar, you type in DruManchu, and then you click on my latest video. You learn a little bit about Gideon Falls, and you learn a little bit about C. Woodard 19's 500 subscriber giveaway. He's like 7 away from 500 right now. If you are in the chat and not subbed up to C. Woodard 19, what are you doing with your life? You're living it all wrong. But I'm just going to say, don't enter that contest because I got it wrapped up, folks. I got it wrapped up.
What about you, Chad? Where can people find Chad?
I'm only on Friday, but like I'm gonna give out shout outs to watch Carson's channel on Tuesdays. You gotta check out that hottest Twitch channel, The Great Legend Show.
That was great.
Hard having 95.
I tested one out tonight with static overlays. It was good.
Check out Cat Ren Figures. Check out DruManchu. Check out Andy. Check out Comic Storian next week with Tom King. And check out Comic Pop.
Yeah, for sure.
Check some other stuff out too.
Well, you
Writer's
can-
Block, man. Writer's Block's a great show.
Writer's Block.
Great show.
Great show. And they're check out Writer's Block.
Now you can find me right now, this very second, because it just turned midnight on the East Coast. I just dropped a video on my C. Woodard 19 channel highlighting Showcase 80, The Phantom Stranger. So that will be the October Read series for today. If you guys get a chance, watch all the other ones. Been having some fun reading some October-themed books.
Oh,
Like
there's
Andy
the update.
Tomorrow, we'll be having a stacked part on my channel because I'll be doing the Tuesday night live stream at 7 p.m. and at 8 p.m. We'll be doing Turtle Talk Tuesday, reviewing TMNT's ongoing issues, or volumes 4 and 5, with 90 miles from comics Chad.
So got the volume 5.
And Andy. So we'll be talking Turtles, and of course Friday we got that horror theme bracket. And I'm sure tomorrow here on the Comic Core we'll have some golden guys with JD and the crew. Wednesday the greatest something of something ever, and then Andy Given Thursday. So stay tuned to the Comic Core for all the fun shows we've got planned. Until next time, Legend, you say the line, bud.
Man, for my good friend C. Woodard 19, Comic Man Andy, DruManchu, CBR, the Superstar, Comic Core, Chad, this is the Great Legend saying, peace out, God bless.